Chapter 6, Episode 11. The Collapse of the Temple. At dusk, Thelma and the others rode on a common girl in a carriage procession that ran along the highway on the edge of the kingdom of Helvetia. Soon the village will come into view. I never thought I would be able to get on the Emperor's carriage train and be personally examined by a famous apothecary serving the Emperor. I might fall. The bourgeois girl who happily clung to the window was named Emma, perhaps because the view from the carriage was unusual. Thelma, who rode with Emma at the end of the procession, saw her innocently happy and wanted to help her mother. Emma seemed to have such hopes in her heart that her mother would soon be examined by a famous pharmacist. Thelma knelt in front of Emma, who was sitting happily on the seat of the carriage, and stared at her bloody legs. When she noticed Thelma's gaze, she pulled back, her face turning red with embarrassment. "Kia. Please don't look at me. I'm sorry, I was thinking of taking care of your feet. Please leave things like my dirty feet alone." "Well, next time it happens, I'll watch it and do it like this." Even if Thelma were to cure her now, it would be a temporary cure, and perhaps it would not save her from poverty. Still, he gives her the information she needs. He taught her how to wash her mud and blood-soaked feet with water, how to remove the blood when the blister grew, how to disinfect the needle, and how to protect it afterward. While showing her the treatment, I thought about the circumstances she had gone through. This treatment is over. Do you think you can do it yourself next time? It's difficult, but I'll try. A few other things might be useful, too. Can you read? The letters are a bit. Your mother can read. If you can read, please read this. Thelma had recently pulled out a thick textbook he had written and had just created a simplified version that could be read by the general public. So he patched it up and folded the edges of the pages for simple items she could use. Medications may not be available, but they are often helpful in less severe cases, such as diseases that can be prevented if you know how to prevent them, and methods of symptomatic treatment. Please use this book. It contains information on how to treat diseases or injuries and how to use medicinal herbs and raw drugs. You can read this and copy it to everyone around you if necessary. Please tell me. This is the first time I received a book. Tears came to her eyes as she looked at the book in her hand. While wiping his tears with his torn cuffs, Thelma gently lent him his handkerchief. "Ah, thank you. Come to think of it, I may not be able to pay for the medical checkup and medication right away, but I'll definitely work on paying you back. Don't worry about the money, it's not something you asked me to do, I'm just squeezing in. I don't know if I can fix it yet." Thelma laughed. Continuing this exchange piece by piece, the carriage wobbles. When the carriage train paused briefly to let the horses rest, Clara got into the carriage with Thelma and the others. She still looks like she's about to cry. "Yakushi-sama, this is a problem. Can't you just go back to the imperial capital right now?" "What do you mean?" It is said that Clara had another prophetic dream while she was falling asleep. Predictions change from moment to moment, so you may see dangers that were previously unseen. Clara's predictions are vague, so it is difficult for Thelma to predict and react to them. When you travel to the imperial capital, there is no danger to your life even if other people are worried about the trip. Others are fine, so I think it's best for you to return to the imperial capital immediately. Is there something wrong with me alone when you turn that word upside down? Even Yakushi-sama is not in danger. However, I have seen repeated signs that if you do not hurry on this journey, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Please return to the imperial capital even if it is just you or your horse running through the night. Something will be irreversible, that's it. Yep. Thelma examined Clara with his eye examination. There is no abnormality in Clara's physical condition. Forcing Thelma to go home first while leaving her master, the Empress, is a violation of her duties as chief pharmacist. Clara says she knows how unreasonable she is. I apologize to His Majesty the Emperor for sharing my selfishness. I will receive any punishment, it's only you. Please return to the imperial city. Okay, as soon as I see Emma's mother's illness, I will go to the imperial capital to see how she is doing. Was good. Clara sighed in relief. Falma believed Clara's words. Even if you knew a little about what was going to happen, your fate could not change. However, your premonition is a divine art blessed by the patron deity of the journey. Just as Falma had inhuman powers at the moment, this was the only miracle a powerless girl had. Her words should not be taken lightly in this world where the unknown power of divine art exists. She too was stunned by the revelation of the whimsical wandering god, and Falma had always heard such worries. Falma's new wand, embedded with 4 treasure cores, has even better acceleration than before, allowing him to travel back and forth to the imperial capital in the blink of an eye. I'm sorry about my mother at such a difficult time. Emma, who had heard about the situation, was sorry to make him take a detour. Falma put her hand on his shoulder and shook her head. You have nothing to worry about. But the next village is the village where my house is. Just as Emma was about to finish saying that, the wagon train suddenly stopped. When the procession stopped moving, Falma got frustrated and told Emma to stay there. Then she left the last carriage and went to the front carriage. Chamberlains were gathered around the Empress's carriage. The advance party, who were to confirm the safety of the road, returned with pale faces and reported to the Empress. Tell me again what happened without hiding anything. Yes, I want to file a report. There is no light in the village ahead, and the village is shrouded in thick fog, with residents lying here and there in the village, gasping in pain. The Empress snorted and ordered her aides after a pause. Then go straight ahead. After hearing the Empress's verdict, the captain of the Vanguard Corps said this in an articulate manner. I am afraid to say this. The dense fog surrounding us is not just a fog. The horses were scared and stranded, so we came back for our lives. What are you saying? Let's dispel the fog with wind magic. Say it clearly. It is believed that the village ahead is haunted by a mist demon, and the mist is thickening at an alarming rate. Hearing this, the Chief Chamberlain strongly recommends a change of course. Your Majesty, please make a detour here. If an evil spirit attacks the whole village, Her Majesty is in danger. Falma, who was listening to the conversation with the Empress, cut between the head chamberlain and opened his mouth. I have heard the story. Those villagers are still alive, aren't they? The Vanguard made a sour face at Falma's question. Yes, it's still close. Your Majesty, please take a detour. I will save the villagers. If there are evil spirits, I will drive them away. Your Majesty and everyone, please wait here. Falma indifferently suggested that he try to retreat. Then the head chamberlain also stopped Falma. Mr. Du Medicis, your opponent is an evil spirit, and you are also in danger. Besides, this is not an empire, and you should entrust the rescue to the prefectural priests and lords of the Helvetia border. Do not interfere too much. I will send soldiers to contact the lord. The lieutenant gives advice in a strong tone. The kingdom of Helvetia is also stable in its internal affairs. Although the Sun-Fleuve Empire is the largest in the world, the empire's interference with the local republic's population is not welcomed except for transit in and out of the Holy Land, which they applied for in advance. Falma, however, cut back. Politically, yes, but this is an emergency humanitarian measure to help civilians, not to interfere in internal affairs. I must. If the plague that has broken out in the village on this great road is left unchecked, it will have a tremendous impact on the empire. When Falma said this resolutely, the chamberlains, impressed by the child's correct reasoning, looked at the Empress's face. It is said that the Vanguard sensed the presence of evil spirits, but Falma also thought of the outbreak of a great epidemic. The high fever of the girl's mother, who lives in the village, worries me. So calm, the chief priest of the imperial city came. We will come by and see it. Let's turn to the provincial temple. It's our job to drive out demons and help the sick. But it's strange, there must be a big temple here, said the Empress, listening to the busy conversation, as if irritated. Yes, if you heard about it a while ago. What are you talking about? You should just keep going straight. The simple girl's house is probably in this village. Drive away evil spirits. Give me That's not going to happen, Your Majesty. Falma scolded the Empress, saying she would go straight even if she rode alone. I cannot guarantee that the Empress will survive if she comes in contact with evil spirits or plagues while wearing a melting circle. Falma asks to record. I suspect both the epidemic and the evil spirits. If that is the case, I may be infected with an epidemic when His Majesty appears during the White Death. As you know, His Majesty has excellent divine powers, but his body has them weaker immune system than normal people. There is a risk of infection. Goodbye, Your Majesty. If anything should happen to His Majesty, we will be beheaded. Yes, you nagging people. The Empress was frustrated, but Falma's conviction paid off, and the chariot train of the Empress and her companions returned to the previous post town. Mothers. Were they all dead? Has an evil spirit come to the village? Emma, who listened to the story after getting out of the carriage, was trembling. Juliana finds her frightened and hugs her. She doesn't seem to care what's going on with Emma's house. Emma, tell me your mother and brother's names, and I will make sure they are okay. You're here, and I'll leave the evil spirits to the priest. When Falma learned the family's name, he entrusted Emma to a trusted servant of the de' Medici's family and joined the rescue team himself with a medical bag and a staff in hand. In addition to the 5 priests, 5 members of the bodyguards, several holy knights of the de' Medici's family, Juliana, Solomon, and Falma rode horses and hurried to the nearest village. Combe seemed to realize he was on his way and voiced his concerns. Oops, that's right. If the provincial temple doesn't work, the situation is at its worst. What do you mean, Mr. Combe? Do you know where the temple is built? Combe fell silent. Hearing Combe's words, the expressions of Solomon and Juliana, who were standing in line with Falma and the horse, also hardened. Juliana spoke to Falma instead of Combe. There are temples built in large cities or at important transportation hubs. But large temples in remote places like this, they were built on a very evil spirit that was forcibly sealed. In other words, if the temple is destroyed or the magic circle that is constantly used has collapsed. Juliana spoke immediately without holding her breath. Solomon summarized. If the temple loses its function, it can become a den of evil spirits, Falma-sama. A temple is an important institution in this world. It makes a silly impression, but Falma's eyes are scales. Falma, who had earlier said he would easily destroy the temple of the imperial city to threaten Combe, reflected on his lack of thought. I can see it. The temple on the hill is the temple of Mezzano. Huh? The immortal lamp is not lit. Cam shouts as he checks the map on horseback. What you can see in the distance at the top of the hill is a relatively large white temple. Solomon told Falma that the immortal light was the flame of the divine arts suspended in the temple's bell tower, and that this was a signal that the temple was functioning normally. It seems that the base of the temple is covered with black mist, he said. Are you saying that evil spirits are coming out of the temple? I could see a fork in the road leading to the neighboring village. One is a straight path and the other is a narrow road leading to the temple on the hill. Combe blurts out as if he is desperate. Falma-sama, we will go to the temple first and reassemble the magic circle. It could be the source of the evil spirits. When you go to the village, be careful. Let us accompany a priest who can use purification techniques, in case evil spirits appear. Don't worry, Juliana, know how to purify. As Juliana introduced herself, Combe smiled wryly. Haha, I used to be a cardinal priest, and I used to be a priest. Whipped the horse and the Combes galloped. Kakishi switching speed increased. Falma and the others, who were going straight without turning, soon noticed an incident ahead. Sure. There's something. As we approached the village, a dense black fog covered the area, as reported by the vanguard. Falma sensed the presence of the same evil spirit he had seen in the basement of Hugo's villa when he confronted Camus. This is certainly an evil spirit. Purification storm. The Holy Knight, using the divine arts of the wind attribute, clears the fog while running at the top to ensure visibility. However, the fog was so terrible that I felt suffocated. Groans began to rise among the rescuers. Gabua. Drowned and suffocated by the black mist, one of the paladins of the Empire fell from his horse. Some could not move forward because their horses were running wild. Falma took out his stick on horseback and, while running in the lead, let loose a new medicine god stick. Blow away the fog with Divine Art's Plague Sanctuary. Falma pointed his stick in the direction he was going and shot the plague shrine forward. Normally, it is a divine art that is activated concentrically, but if you concentrate, you can also give it direction. A stream of divine power instantly blows away the black mist with the divine purification art unique to the medicine divine staff. There was no mistake in activating the technique. However, Falma clearly felt that their reaction was different from before. The area of the plague sanctuary is too small. Does it seem effective only about 500 meters away? Nevertheless, I was able to ward off the black mist for a short time. In the sanctuary released by Falma, the rescue team rushed into the room, which opened like the eye of a typhoon in the maelstrom of black mist. Those who had fallen from their horses hurriedly jumped on their horses and chased after Falma before the black mist approached. After arriving at the village, Falma wiped away the mist, but it was soon eroded by the fog, making it deeper and less effective. When the magic circle of the temple recovers, the mist will disappear. There's no point in dealing with the fog, so let's rush to the rescue. Yes, let's split up and search. Falma decided to follow Solomon's suggestion. As soon as the rescue team was divided into groups of several and entered the alley of the village, Falma and the others found several collapsed bodies in the middle of the path trying to escape from the village. He ran off barefoot and collapsed as if exhausted, the corpse still warm. Damn. It was late. Were you hit by an evil spirit? Falma emitted a squelching voice, put on gloves, confirmed that there were no external injuries, and tried to peel the corpse's lower eyelid to find out the cause of death. And small hemorrhages on mucous membranes, Petechia akatsunich, found bleeding from burst capillaries as a sign of suffocation. It's like suffocation. Was it swallowed by a black mist and could not breathe? While Falma was saying this, Solomon quickly wrote a sacred note, stuck it on the back of the corpse and chanted something. Maybe Solomon is used to seeing dead bodies, so he's good at it. What did it do? We just mourn so that the dead don't become evil spirits. Right now, with the temple no longer functioning, the dead who are not mourned will soon become evil spirits. Like that. Solomon turned and saw 2 or 3 black figures hovering in the alleys of the village and approaching. Falma, who saw the evil spirit a little later than Solomon, tried to come forward, but Solomon stuck cut in front of his vision. I am not a big evil spirit, so please leave it to me to deal with this level of evil spirits, Falma-sama and the others to save the villagers. Understood. Falma left the evil spirits to Solomon and began to search for Juliana, several others and the villagers. Falma, hearing a soft noise from the back of the inn, looked at Juliana and entered. Then heard a faint groan of a person in the pitch-dark inn. Turning on the light, he found a man and a woman who seemed to be guests, so Falma approached them. Please wait. Go away. Juliana opened the bottle of holy water, poured it over the men and women, cast a limited purification spell and opened the window of the room. She quickly writes some symbols with charcoal on the 4 corners of the room and chants the invocation of the divine arts. Then a mist bubbled up from the bodies of the survivors, men and women, and the mist swirled around the room, ravaging the furniture in the room like a poltergeist. The glass shattered and the belongings in the inn were scattered on the floor, so Falma surrounded the rescuers with a wall of ice to protect them from flying household items. After a while, the wind died down. After the room was completely cleared, the 2 hugged each other and collapsed, probably because they were overwhelmed with fear. At this point both of them were lucid. After finishing her work, Juliana looked back at Falma with relief. I was on the verge of being possessed by a demon, but now I'm relieved. Thank you, Juliana. Falma called out to the 2 rescuers, admiring former Cardinal Priestess Juliana's quick response. Thank you for your help, please stay strong. My breathing is getting easier. Thank you. I don't know. Before I knew, my body was so heavy that I couldn't breathe. I fell down and thought I was going to die. Citizens who do not have divine power cannot see evil spirits, except for those with extremely keen senses. Juliana explains what happened to them. The black mist contains a multitude of disembodied vulgar spirits that seek out the living. We have to hurry. Let's find survivors. Falma turned his attention to the rescue. At first glance, many of the villagers appeared to have collapsed. But in fact many were in a weak condition, and even those on the verge of suffocation barely woke up as oxygen was supplied and the evil spirits exorcised. Only a dozen victims were counted. Well, I cleaned that up too. As Falma and the others joined Solomon, he effortlessly expelled 8 evil spirits and collected and mourned the dead he encountered. Falma and the others found Emma's mother and brother among the survivors gathered in the central square of the village. He is quite exhausted, but it does not seem life-threatening. Emma's mother had a high fever, which appeared to be acute tonsillitis, according to an eye examination. When I asked him to open his mouth, I could see the pus. Emma-san was worried about your health. Are you? My name is pharmacist Falma de Medicis. Emma is in a safe place. Yes, that girl. How can I thank you? Falma took out the antipyretic and the antibiotic from the hospital bag, gave them to his mother and explained to her how to take them. Meanwhile, Juliana and Solomon placed crystal stones and drew a magic circle in the center of the square, gathering the survivors inside. It's safe inside, please don't leave the enclosure of this magic circle. Are you a priest? Thank you. I thought I was going to die. Some time ago, the aristocrat who came on horseback ran away, so I thought it was abandoned, he said. If there are no priests and nobles who use divine arts, they will be killed by evil spirits. Although there is a temple near here, how can evil spirits appear? Despite the casualties, the villagers expressed their gratitude to the rescue team. Falma guessed what role nobles and priests who use divine arts had played in this world. The importance of the existence of nobility was shown in such an emergency. While rejoicing in his survival and letting the villagers who surrounded the rescue team loosen his cheeks for a moment, Falma still could not understand. Still, has the effect of my sanctuary disappeared? As Solomon had said before, there was a sanctuary around Falma that kept evil spirits away. It is not that I blindly believed in a shrine whose existence could not even be proven, but perhaps that is why Falma has had a hard time encountering it until now, unless it is a big evil spirit. Ordinary evil spirits could not appear before him, and when Falma approached them, the evil spirits disappeared almost automatically. How about now? A black mist appeared in front of Falma and an evil spirit appeared. There is no particular change in Falma's divinity or usable divine arts. But it is definitely different from before. I wonder if the gear of the hook in the great temple fell out, the high priest died, and the world changed. Yet the immortal lamp in the temple does not burn. One of the holy knights, who was looking at the top of the hill from a tall building in the village, told the rescue team. Hearing these words, Falma remembered the existence of Com. Speaking of Wick, something happened to Mr. Combs. It looks like you're having trouble restoring the magic circle. Falma, hearing Solomon's words, immediately made a decision. Can I let you have this place? What do you mean? Falma tells Juliana and Solomon. I will go to the temple. Everyone, please protect the villagers. Falma-sama, you can't be alone. So are we. I think it's better not to spread the forces while the mist is still rising. There are more things I can do alone against evil spirits. Solomon seemed to have lost the words to respond to Falma's words. Falma thought that he should avoid bringing a large number of people to a dangerous place. Otherwise, there will be more victims like the Empress and Pius. I'm sorry, I trust the people here. That's why I want you to let me go alone. Falma-sama. Falma ran wildly and disappeared into the mist. Even though I have always been advised not to act alone, I have always encountered situations where I was the only one who had to go to the scene. Falma runs through the fog with different thoughts and flies through the staff with divine power. It took off from the forest and within seconds it suddenly hovered and reached the sky above the temple. I wish I had been here from the beginning. From a distance the seemingly magnificent guardian temple had an unnaturally large hole in its ceiling. A suffocating smell of rot emanated from the hole, and as I got closer, the temple was overgrown with ivy, revealing an ominous, ruin-like landscape. When Falma squinted his eyes, the cathedral floor was covered with black tar-like black lumps that rippled and formed a liquid. I can see the bluish divine light floating among the liquids. 5 priests were the light of divine art, desperately struggling against the liquid that threatened to swallow them. The surface of the liquid was covered with large and small human faces. Falma suddenly poured divine power into the wand, immediately swooped down from the sky, released divine power just before it touched the ground, and thrust his wand into the liquid. The 4 relic cores in his wand detect evil spirits and work together to create a sanctuary that engulfs the liquid. His power was enormous. Go away. As Falma increased his concentration to the extreme and focused his power, the face-like thing on the surface of the liquid was thus burned and melted, pushed back to the bottom of the temple and sucked in. Falma pushes the condensed liquid of the evil spirits back underground and steps on the floor of the temple with divine power. He is not thwarted by this alone, filling the divine circuits on the floor of the temple with his divine power and restoring the sanctuary of the temple. Falma, who knew nothing about the structure of the magic circle, had no choice but to overpower him with brute force. Nevertheless, most of the divine arts of this world responded to Falma's intentions. The rituals of the divine arts are probably the embodiment of thoughts, so there is no need to chant anything at all. However, those who do not have enough divine power have no choice but to borrow the effect of the spell. Falma thinks like this the other day. Medical god. Sama. Goho, Ga. Kam, who seemed to lie dazed, stood up while vomiting blood, went to his knees and looked up at Falma. His eyes no longer held hostility or suspicion. The other priests lay limply on the floor. Falma called out to everyone and helped them up. It seems that it was a very fierce battle and some priests had used up their divine power. Is everyone safe somehow? Let's go back and take care of ourselves. The treasure of the Guardian Temple lost its power and the evil spirits that were sealed in this land were about to resurface, causing damage in the surrounding villages. But if you had not come, I would not have come. Have died. I will never forget your kindness. Don't worry, it's impossible to deal with. Falma praised Comb's good fight and said it didn't seem like something a person could handle. Combe looked Falma in the eye, his lips trembling, and connected his words. However, it is believed that this change is not only in this temple, but in different places. The temple will lose its function due to the fragility of the divine art formation. It will affect the temple. Claris' prophecy popped into my head. I wonder what the temple of the imperial city looks like now. I can hear the prelude to the destruction of the world. I pray that the high priest will be found as soon as possible. Combe whispered, so exhausted and lost consciousness. Citizens, state your name and address and evacuate to campus. Bruno, president of St. Fleuve Imperial College of Medicine, issued an evacuation order to residents around the university and welcomed evacuees to campus. Emergency bulkheads will be deployed at all gates and throughout the campus to maintain defensive magical formations. A university employee with wind attribute, who is good with magic circles, weaves powerful magic circles at the perimeter of the compound to prevent evil spirits from entering. The evil spirits that approached these magic circles evaporated, which was invisible to the citizens but visible to the nobles. Thank you, Archduke Sama. I will never forget this kindness. I was wondering what would happen, but now I am relieved. Citizens rush into the Imperial College of Medicine with their luggage. What the imperial aristocrats are there for times like this? Bruno, who greeted the citizens at the main gate, snorted unkindly as if to respond to words of thanks. Shortly after Bruno's decision, the imperial court issued an order from the Minister of State to issue an emergency evacuation warning for the entire imperial capital. Protecting citizens in times of emergency and fighting evil spirits are the most important tasks of the nobles living in the Sanfluiv Empire. When evil spirits appear in a wide area, citizens are temporarily evacuated to the Empire's designated evacuation site, and if they cannot make it in time, they are temporarily evacuated to the mansion of a noble with a red flag. Designated evacuation sites include the Imperial Court and Imperial Army facilities, and the Imperial Medical College is one of the designated evacuation sites. At night, the influence of evil spirits is particularly strong, and things that look like mist during the day can materialize at night and attack citizens. The Imperial College of Medicine stockpiled bedding for distribution to citizens and non-perishable food with purification magic. Users of magical water attributes create water and provide drinking water to the citizens. It was Bruno's decision to use the water generated by divine arts because if everyone had perishable water during the evacuation life, it would lead to infectious diseases. With things that are rare, citizens are gladly provided. Thank you, it is divine water. It is transparent. Aristocrats are generous in times like these, though they are usually arrogant. Shush, your voice is loud. The citizens' impressions of the aristocracy are also mixed. How long can I last? Bruno sent his students to different places to get the full picture of the Imperial City, but the Imperial City Temple was already non-functional. It seems that the priests are stuck in the temple to maintain the magical formation in their turn, and they cannot move. Nevertheless, in order not to increase the number of evil spirits appearing in the Imperial City, it is said that the protection of the temple is absolutely necessary. The magic coven used in the lair where the nobles protected the commoners was quite powerful. But if they continued to use magic on such a large scale, their divine power would eventually be exhausted. Some people have already exhausted their divine powers to the extreme and can no longer use the divine arts. President, I have something to say. In such a defensive struggle, Professor Casper, who has made a name for himself as an expert on actinomycetes, calls Bruno, who is busy gathering teachers and information. When Bruno turned around, several old teachers were gathered there, led by Casper. They all looked at Bruno with a strong gaze that contained a kind of determination. We have a short life ahead of us, so let's not think about peace in the future. Please open the Forbidden Library and use our divinity to synthesize the elixir haberator. Professor Casper made a resolute proposal to Bruno. In the Forbidden Libraries of the Sanfluiv Imperial College of Medicine, there are elixirs for expelling evil spirits that can only be synthesized by users of divine arts, the patron gods of medicine, at the expense of the divine power of a life. When Bruno hears it, he loses his voice, and the teachers react sensitively when they hear that it is a miracle cure. Hey, what are you talking about? No, you shouldn't use forbidden techniques. While the number of evil spirits in the temple is increasing, the magic circle will not last long. If we give it to all the citizens of the Imperial City, we can buy time for everyone to safely evacuate to Rambu City, which is near the Imperial City. It's too late to start over, so please tell the Minister of State. However, making elixir is risky. Besides, I wonder if Rambu City is safe. Bruno showed reluctance, but Professor Casper and the others did not relent. Just now I was able to contact an old scholar in Rambu City. I received word that the Guardian Temple is safe. Good news from the dove that flew 20 from the Imperial City and only one returned. Incredibly, Emperor and priest are absent. The Imperial capital threatens to fall into the hands of evil spirits. Then isn't it our duty to protect the lives of the citizens? You're right, Professor Casper. We know that the Grand Master has never failed to brew esoteric medicine, not even an elixir. The apothecary's position is incontrovertible. Perhaps touched by her passion, Bruno accepts the offer. Is that so? I have taken this resolution seriously. Please lend me your strength. Only 3 hours later, news of the production of the elixir Hibaritor and the temporary evacuation of all imperial citizens to Rambu City was brought to the palace. Immediately thereafter, the Sanfloop Empire issued an evacuation order for the entire imperial capital on the orders of the Minister of State.